Hey, what's up guys? This is Oakley and we're going to be taking a look at a recap I put together of the campaign changes, so what to expect. So first and foremost, we're going to get over the fluff of the campaign, which is to say it's essentially the same campaign map we saw before with a bit of a reskin. So they just go here and talk a bit about the texture changes, different environments. Yeah, it looks good. I mean, kudos to the artist, it looks awesome, but you all know that we're not here to buy this essentially standalone for these mere graphical updates alone. So we're gonna have to wait to see more of the in-depth stuff, but I do like that they're doing this. Hopefully this will be something that they'll work into, hopefully reverse engineer back into Rome 2. I mean, they did somewhat change some of the graphics in Rome 2, so I'm hoping more and more of the features that we'll be seeing sort of come to the fore in Attila. Hopefully that'll be back engineered into Rome 2, although I did see a post from CA saying that they will not take features such as, I believe, the family tree and whatnot. Some of the bigger features, they won't be able to copy that down, although they do say that a team will be continuing to help out develop Rome 2. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about some of the more substantive changes to the UI, which is basically the main thing we're getting from campaign. It's going to be a streamlined version of things. So, for example, here you can see the map with the various factions. So the Western Roman Empire does have a large empire, but they're going to be harassed from the north. Apparently, right from the start, you'll have armies in your territories landing. So you're going to be dealing with crises to the north, all the way in England, then northeast from that faction coming through there, and then the Vandals to the south. And then here you have also a religion tab. So this is cool. It's kind of like culture. Now you have religion, which is probably going to feed into the potential unity or disunity in your population, and then potentially your diplomatic relations with others. And just as culture can influence and grow in regions, so too can religion. This makes me think that perhaps you'll be able to have an agent that can move around. They haven't really announced anything about agents. Perhaps we'll have access to a priest who can do some things like the work of a dignitary. Maybe he's going to be a diplomat, but then he can also promote conversions and do some actions like that. But as of yet, we don't have much information as to what their roles will be. And then sanitation, it has its own sort of overview here. Apparently sanitation is going to be a huge problem in this game, in that you have to balance sanitation, which is obviously being clean and all that, versus squalor. If you don't, you'll have outbreaks of plague and other things. So they dedicate an entire map page to basically assess the health of your territory. So it will probably be a very important thing to keep your empire intact and not just go to pieces with the onset of plague. And then here is going to be another overview. I'm questioning the helpfulness of this map, but it does sort of simplify the campaign map into territories. Apparently it's supposed to help you locate bottlenecks in the campaign map more readily and just look at things from a tactical, simplified perspective. So from that sense, I think it does look cool. It would be awesome if they could somehow work this into a multiplayer, Shogun 2 type of multiplayer thing where you can capture the different territories and have the sort of clan battles on a territory map that look like this. We have not heard anything about multiplayer, so stay tuned for that. And then here is going to be a menu that's going to be something that they've announced that's new, which is going to be called your records. So this page is basically going to keep track of everything that happens in your campaign. You can go and view it at any point in time, sort it by, start date, end date, and then special event types, But what's most interesting here is I was able to pick out in the diplomacy region. We haven't seen really a diplomacy menu, but if you look here, non-aggression pact broken. So yeah, okay, you can break those, but then you can have defensive alliance undermined. So it seems there's going to be a difference between broken treaties and undermined treaties. So what that tells me is there's probably going to be a bit more nuance. Puppet state manipulated, stuff like that. A little more nuance to the diplomacy that we have yet to see. So stay tuned for more details on that. And now we're going to break apart what we see in this menu. So for instance here, popping up the bottom left, it looks like food and fertility of the region, minus 88 food. Now I'm not quite sure if this place is absolutely just starving or if they've more likely redone the balance of food. Anyways, if you look at the UI at the bottom, they've also gone ahead and sort of kept the same province style as Rome 2, but they've changed the graphics. So again, it's not a super big change. It just seems like what they're doing with Attila is polishing everything and taking into account what people wanted with their UI, which is going to have rendered views of everything, and everything is much cleaner, much easier to navigate, which is nice. So for instance, if you look at the building browser, everything is just in one map. Gone is apparently the encyclopedia. Here you have everything in one menu with drop downs to the left, everything is color coded, and then everything just stacks down in a branched view. It's much easier, much simpler to understand than what Rome 2 was with the encyclopedia. way too confusing, I found. That's why I had trouble just navigating my way through things. I think the simplified version of things in Attila is really good, and it begs the question as to why this simplified version of things was not done in Rome 2. And also, in my mind, it begs the question, can they implement this simplicity into Rome 2? I mean, at this point, most people are familiar with that system, but I think it could do with a nice cleaning up, and this is just so much more workable. So, going on with the sanitation, how important it seems to be, it has its own area here, sanitation, town waterworks or city waterworks, and you can see the effects of, for instance, this cloaca, or whatever that is, a city waterworks, plus 21 sanitation in the region, so it seems like, you know, that'll give you plus 21 points, so I don't know how much it takes for your city to develop plague or whatnot, but it seems like this is going to be pretty substantial. So a lot to play with, and then again, just the revised form of everything. So in Rome 2, technology was split between two different panels. Here they just said, you know, let's put them together, and this is so much better. Just the simplicity of everything is great. It's minimalistic, and then the advantage of having these side by side is it allows you to just compare and contrast everything, move and plan, and just it's so much easier to run your empire. I'm not quite sure why this couldn't have been done in Rome 2, and that's why I'm hoping it's backwards compatible. Continuing on how you run your empire, I did pause the screen and just blow up the different edicts that they had. Now, to note that this is going to change for factions. So bread and circuses is still here, food production, public order, Catholic mission, auxiliary support, and ecumenical matters. So obviously this pertains to a Christian faction for two of those. It'll change based off factions, and obviously auxiliary support will probably change as well. The barbarians will get more stuff for raiding, and yeah, that's to be awaited. And also, when they sort of put their cursor over the edict, it said edict 1 out of 2, so perhaps you will have the opportunity to enact 2 edicts under certain circumstances. I'm still not sure about that. That has to remain to be seen, but it's interesting to see at least some of these develop, and just where the priorities lay with those edicts. Now, this is going to be a pretty big move, I think, is just how they redid the family. And so you can see here, your family tree here, this is going to be very important in this time in Rome, because a lot of successions would cause turmoil internally in Rome. So you really want to, you know, settle who is marrying who, what is the line of succession, and then, you know, keep some of your generals from getting too much power. So Stilcho is here represented, Theodosius, famous emperor of the time. So this is all really cool, and look at the right, you can actually appoint your people to offices. That is so cool, very refreshing. This is what I always thought they should have done, and it's kind of a hail back to the positions you had, I mean, in previous Total Wars. Like, even back in Empire, you could assign one of your people to be, I don't know, head of treasury or head of navy, and they would confer bonuses, and they would get good at that, and all of a sudden you'd see more income and stuff like that. So that's what I'm really excited to see, is that level of detail. And look at the bottom, you have all your intrigue in Rome 2, that's its own too big of a panel. It's all just simplified into a smaller thing. And on the right, what's really cool is you can actually make each of your characters on the left your patricians, or whoever it is as a barbarian faction. You can appoint them as governors or generals in various regions, and that's very cool. So their buffs that they accumulate throughout their life, once you point them to that region, they will all of a sudden turn into region-wide bonuses, which is amazing. I love this. It allows you to play a lot more with your characters. It makes you really care about each of your individual people in your family, and it's just much more visible and obvious and streamlined, and it's, again, something I wish they would bring back to Rome 2, and it just makes you wish that they could have done that from the get-go, and it's a shame that we have to buy a whole new pack to get this installation. But anyways, another way they're going to attach you to these types of characters is if you put your general as a governor, and then you go to that province and you try and defend a city, for example, that's under attack. That persona, that character that you made the general, he's actually going to appear in that army as the governor in battle. So you get to see him not only from the campaign map, but also on the battlefield. Taking a look at the legions themselves, you can see how they revamped the UI, switching from the stylistic art approach that they had, sort of the terracotta, whatever it was, to more of a 3D rendering unit cards. I do particularly like this better. I don't know, I just feel like it's clearer, it stands out more, it's more obvious as to what, you know, the degree of armor each unit has and all that. You can tell more at a glance, so I'm liking this more streamlined look. And then again, you can go ahead, and what they've done is instead of having for your characters here, instead of having all these weird cards that stack, they've gone back to what we saw in Shogun 2, which is just basically a skill tree where you can see the progression, where you want to go, and just plow your way down. Top right, you can wed him to wife very easily. You have switchable parts that you can add to your household. all of this stuff just seems way more obvious. And what's really nice is look at that on the left, the effects summary. Instead of having to try and keep track of that by yourself, same goes for the army, you can look at the overall effects summary and it tallies all of your bonuses. So that is a godsend of simplicity. I really like it. But again, it's a shame that what it seems like for Attila is like, it's kind of a wish list of what we've wanted for Rome 2, except stripped and packaged in a new reskinned Rome 2. So they're really going to have to sell me on this new title. I mean, obviously I will end up buying it for the history, but I would really hate for that to be my motivating factor. I really hope they put a lot more into this game. Now, one of the things that does hold a little bit more intrigue for me and a lot lends credence to the fact that they're really going to try and implement new things to this game is the new surrender feature or abandon feature, which is basically where you can take your city and instead of relinquishing it to the enemy, you abandon it, it becomes desolate, and you burn the territory, and now no one owns that territory. So that's a very interesting feature that we'll have to see how it plays out. Basically, you can do a Scorched Earth policy, and now you have a territory where if you want to go ahead and take it over, you're going to have to start from scratch. So as a defender, maybe you want to abandon territory on your perimeter, regroup, and when you do abandon these territories, you do get a little bit of cash inflow. So that is good for a defensive strategy, although I hope they have an offensive strategy where you can put forts and whatnot. Anyways, that's going to be it for the recap. See you guys next time.